So are you a fan of aromatic fragrances as much as I am? Do you love these aromatic style fragrances? Well, today it's a question that I've been asked quite frequently, and I figured one question that came up as well, I've received many asking this particular topic or question about this topic. And so today I'm going to tell you about aromatic fragrances and also let you know about some of the fragrances that are my favorites in this particular style, and also explain to you the different subcategories under aromatic fragrances. So if you want to find out and learn about aromatic fragrances and find out about some of the fragrances that go under this particular category in fragrances, then please stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian with Smelling Great Fragrance Reviews. That's right, today we're talking about aromatic fragrances, and it's one of my favorite styles of fragrances. In fact, it's probably one of the most popular men's fragrance style category, and lots of different fragrances targeted to men fall under this category. But today I decided to mostly focus on unisex fragrances. There might be one or two fragrances here that are specifically targeted to men, but most should be for both men and women. But I feel like if you went to the designer world, aromatic fragrances typically tend to be more for men. But anyway, if this is your first time tuning into my channel and you love watching fragrance reviews and learning about fragrances and participating in giveaways and still haven't subscribed to the channel, please click the subscribe button below and also click the bell so you'll be notified for future videos and giveaways. And if you want to send me questions about specific topics or ideas you want me to discuss on the channel, you can send those questions to lfsgquestions@gmail.com. And just keep in mind that I might not get back to you, but I am reading all the emails. If anyone deserves a quick reply, I will reply, but I'm keeping a tally of the different questions I get asked, and this one came up quite frequently, and I like the idea of whoever you were, I can't remember your name now, sorry about that, who mentioned covering the different olfactory groups. So I'll do sort of a series. I might skip 1 week and move on to another one, but I'd like to cover the different olfactory categories, and today we're talking about aromatic fragrances. But before we do that, I'm doing another giveaway for another baseball hat that says perfume on it right here. So today I'm going to talk to you about aromatic fragrances, as I said, and one of the fragrances I'm going to talk to you about, I am doing a review tomorrow. If you guess which fragrance I'm reviewing tomorrow, before I air the video, and whoever answers first correctly, and also wherever, all over the world, I'm going to send you the baseball hat. So please make sure to guess correctly. Please put down where you're commenting from so that I can qualify you to win that baseball hat. Anyway, what are aromatic fragrances? So aromatic fragrances, as I said, are one of my favorite styles of fragrances. And typically, if you are a fan of watching food shows or recipe shows where they're cutting, chopping things, they'll usually mention aromatic ingredients. And those are typically basil, rosemary, cumin, cardamom, coriander, mint, thyme, and oregano. All of these are particularly aromatic ingredients, and so they're aromatic notes that are typically gone into creating fragrances. And again, this is one of my favorite styles, and I like that combination of the herbs because I grew up around herbs, and spices, and I like the way those smell, and I also like them in my fragrances. So typically, depending on what style it is, for example, an aromatic aquatic, which we're going to discuss today, and I'm going to give you two fragrance ideas in this particular subcategory. They'll usually combine the aromatic notes, some of the notes I mentioned, with like C notes, or for example, aromatic citrus typically would combine different citruses with those aromatic notes. And then, for example, you also got the aromatic Fougere, which I speak about this category quite frequently, and those typically will combine lavender. One more note I forgot to mention is geranium, which is definitely not used in cooking, but that's also frequently mentioned in aromatic fragrances. But I'm not mentioning every single ingredient. There's a lots more out there that I'm just giving you some of the basics. I think saffron would fall under this category, coriander, cardamom. So a lot of all of these ingredients are considered aromatic notes and typically are found in aromatic fragrances. You also have something like aromatic fruity. So you've got these aromatic notes combined with fruity notes. Aromatic spicy. So basically this is typically when you have the aromatic ingredients with spices like, let's say, nutmeg or cinnamon and cloves are all spice, so it can be kind of a contrast of warmer notes of the spices with the cooler notes of the herbs, the aromatics. And then aromatic green is another category that we're going to discuss today, and typically these are aromatic notes with green notes. And typically, I think for me, aromatic fragrances tend to be green to begin with, but then you're amping up or boosting up the green qualities by adding more green notes. Anyway, so that's pretty much what aromatic fragrances are. If you've been watching so far, can you let me know if you're a fan of this style? Do you have any favorites in this category? Let me know so I find out. But let's get started with the aromatic fougere category. And I'm sorry, not the aromatic fougere, but the aromatic aquatic category. We'll get to the fougere in a little bit. But I have two fragrances in this category that are aromatic aquatic. And this is Fougeres Marine from the house of MONTALE. And this one is Art de Parfums Sea Foam. So typically these are not my favorite styles of fragrances. You know, aquatics are tough for me, but there's a certain type of aquatic fragrance that I like, and there's a certain type I do not like. When it's a heavy usage or a heavy dose of cologne, the synthetic note to smell like the sea, marine notes and things like that, this is when I kind of like I'm not really into it. But here with this, these tend to be pretty quality for me. In fact, I have them and I'm a fan of them. That's why I'm mentioning them to you. I'm going to spray this one on here. So the MONTALE Fougere Marine is typically a great name. It's a fougere and it's marine. You can probably add this into the marine, the fougere category, the aromatic fougere. But since it's an aromatic fougere marine, I'm including it in here because the marine is basically hinting at the sea notes, and that's definitely the aquatic. So here, what we have are lots of sea notes with lavender, geranium, some musk, Oakmoss, and patchouli. It's quite a great fragrance. It's when I want to wear something a little more aquatic and also want to wear the fougere or aromatic style notes together. It's an interesting balance of wonderful notes like lavender and geranium, which are the aromatic ingredients or the notes, with a major dose of sea notes. And it doesn't get too fishy, and it smells fresh and green and invigorating. So it's very herbal and aromatic with that sea note. There's some musk thrown in here as well. MONTALE does pretty awesome job with musks and throw in some oak moss, a little animalic and leathery touch, and then patchouli, and you've got a great fragrance. Now, I don't hear a lot of people talking about this one, but I feel like it's a great fragrance for what you get, or the style. I don't have too much experience with aromatic aquatic fragrances, but I have these two, and I wanted to highlight them for you. Now, the other one, Sea Foam, I'm going to spray it on the other hand, and I'm going to run out of hands. I'm going to use some strips in the future. But this one actually is quite a great fragrance. Another one that's aquatic and marine, but again, it doesn't utilize or heavily rely on that cologne note, which makes it easier for me to wear. And here, it's a very unique concoction with sea notes and lemon and bergamot. Lots of citruses in here. There's some salt thrown in, and then driftwood, and then the eucalyptus comes in. And for me, I feel like the eucalyptus is a very aromatic note here. Along with this, you've also got fig leaf, which is also pretty aromatic to me, and then bay leaf. So it's a aromatic green aquatic for me because there's a lot of green notes. The eucalyptus, the bay leaf, the fig leaf all adds a green touch to the fragrance, and then also the lemons and citruses adds a very bright and uplifting kind of a quality along with the sea notes. Actually, this is quite a lovely fragrance, and these two I definitely would wear in the summertime. I feel like aquatics for me are much better in the summertime, or if it's really cold outside and it's like dark, and I want to kind of like be transported to like more of a summertime beachy feeling, is when I would pull for these two. So this is what aromatic aquatic fragrances are, or these are what aromatic aquatic fragrances are. It's just utilizing the aromatic, spicy, or herbal notes with aquatic and sea notes. So those are MONTALE, Fougere Marine, and Seafoam from the house of Art de Parfum. Let me know if you guys know these two houses. Heading over to the aromatic citrus department or section of the video, we've got two fragrances here, and it says Guerlain's Aqua Allegoria Mandarine Basilic, and then JACQUES with green water. Both very citrusy aromatic fragrances because they're utilizing heavily the citrus notes along with the aromatic notes. And I feel like this combo is a match made in heaven. Citrus aromatics are amazing together, and the balance of the herbal notes with the citruses is just a really, really wonderful experience. And it's amazing here with Guerlain's Mandarine Basilic because you've got lots of mandarin orange and clementine with a big aromatic dose of basil. Basilic is basically basil, and this is a wonderful, wonderful release. I'm not even going to spray this one because I can smell it out of the bottle here, and it's so delicious. The mandarin is so juicy, the clementine is so juicy, and it's nicely contrasted with that herbal and aromatic basil note. The basilic is basil, and it's a wonderful concoction. I feel like this is a late discovery for me, but when I discovered it late last summer, I immediately bought it because it smelled so great. The combination just works great. And this type of citrus aromatic for me, once again, works best in the summertime when it's really warm outside. Again, if you're looking for something to uplift you, because this is a very uplifting and happy fragrance, it'll work great then as well. Now with the JACQUES, this is a very classic fragrance. It's been around since, I think, the 50s. JACQUES used to be a clothing designer. It's no longer. It's now a niche house. I don't know if you can call that, but they do not make any clothes anymore. It is owned by a company, Panouge, that just basically, you know, releases fragrances. And with this one, it's heavy on the mint, and it's heavy on the bergamot. It's heavy on the mandarin orange, and lots of neroli and oakmoss. So it's a very, I would actually go to the extent of calling this an aromatic green citrus fragrance because it's an ultra green, and it's also very citrusy, and it's also very aromatic with the herbs. But it's a classic. There's also vetiver in here, some musk, throw in some more aromatic notes of mint. There's some cumin to spice it up a little bit, but for me, it's mostly about the mint. I already mentioned the mint, but mint and the bergamot and the neroli and the oakmoss. Wonderful combination. Don't forget the mandarin as well. But it's a very, very citrusy fragrance. It's very, very classy. It's very, I wouldn't go to the extent of calling it sophisticated, but more like an elegant, very classy, gentlemanly fragrance. And at one point, it used to be targeted to the men. Now it's considered unisex under the new parent company who doesn't design clothes anymore. So this is JACQUES and green water, and this is Guerlain Mandarine Basilic. Both excellent citrus, aromatic citrus fragrances that are wonderful to wear any time of the year, pretty much. All right, next we're going to the aromatic fougere category, and I've got two fragrances here. This is a classic. It's HOUBIGANT's Fougere Royale, and this is a wonderful unique take on an aromatic fougere, Parfum DUSITA, Isara. Two completely different fougeres, or aromatic fougeres, but both really wonderful. This one's a classic dating back to the late 1800s, and it was redone in 2010. And it doesn't go out of style. And what I really love about this one is the fact that the lavender is heavy. And I feel like aromatic fougeres definitely have that lavender and the coumarin or tonka bean in the base, and some oak moss as well. So those are pretty much a requirement for this particular style in the aromatic world of fragrances. But this one has this really, really wonderful start. Whereas sometimes I talk to you guys about Rouge Parfums base notes is what it comes alive. This one starts out very alive. It's just a very, very invigorating blast of lots of bergamot and lavender, and also oak moss and clary sage and chamomile. Those are really, really driving this fragrance. It starts off really, really intense and juicy and herbal. Really a great scent. If you don't know this one, and you probably do know because you've been following me, because I've mentioned this fragrance so frequently. This is amazing. It's a great, great aromatic fougere from the house of HOUBIGANT, and it's a very, very historic fragrance. Now here with Parfum DUSITA's Isara, it's a different take on it. This one I'm going to spray. Now this one, for me, it's fall or autumn in a bottle. Why? Because this one has a big dose of cumin, lots of sage. That's where the aromatic fougere part comes in. They're not using lavender for this particular aromatic fougere. It's a different take on a fougere, where typically lavender is used, but here they're not. So they're using sage and pine and vetiver to kind of like give you that fougere quality, but they also have amber here. For me, this feels like a honeyed take on a fougere, an aromatic fougere. So if you like your fougere, the aromatic notes of the herbs, and just add in some like gooey and syrupy honey to it, it's just, that's how I experienced this fragrance. It's almost like an amber fougere or aromatic amber fougere. So just, there's an ambery touch and there's an ambery note here, and the color, as you can see, is exactly how I experienced this fragrance. And I feel like this is also very appropriate for fall and autumn wear, because it has a dry element and a very, very golden, like late fall Indian summer kind of an experience. It's truly a lovely fragrance to wear and appreciate. Sadly, it's a little on the pricey side, but it's an amazing fragrance. And I like that when they kind of bend the rules a little bit and do a unique twist on a typical fragrance style. Anyway, that's Parfum DUSITA, Isara, and then this is HOUBIGANT's Fougere Royale. Awesome aromatic fougere fragrances. Now going to the fruity category. So we have two fragrances, one from the house of Hermes, and this is Sur le Toit, and this is Bottega Veneta Melagrana. Two different aromatic fruity fragrances. For the Hermes, I just recently picked this up. I got a great tester deal from a friend. So I never wore this one. I've been a fan of the Un Jardin Méditerranée. This one's Sur le Toit, and this one is a fruity take on a very green aromatic fragrance, and you've got the notes of green grass here with apples, and there's lots of rosemary, there's pear, and some magnolia thrown in. There's a little bit of a minty touch as well. I get lots of minty touch here, but those are pretty much the aromatic notes along with the fruits to create this fruity concoction. This is a unisex fragrance. I think, yeah, it's a unisex fragrance, but it's wonderful because the rose and the pear kind of come in the background and kind of like soften the aromatic notes, because something I didn't mention, aromatic notes tend to go metallic on me, very sharp. Depends on how they use them, and this is a softer take on those aromatic notes. The apples also, I'm forgetting, but green grass, apples, rosemary, mint, pear, magnolia, wonderful concoction. Very, very fun fragrance and perfect to wear in the summertime. That is Hermes Sur le Toit. Now with this one, the Melagrana from Bottega Veneta, and I'm going to tell you, I've got two fragrances from this house, and I have the fragrances that I've had, and I don't speak much about them. I'm going to mention them here in this particular video. But Bottega Veneta's Melagrana is a unique, similar fragrance to Rouge Trafalgar from Dior that I've been talking about. But this one focuses on mint, and it's very, very minty with pomegranate and lots of green basil. So it's minty, it's green basil, lots of blackcurrant, lots of pomegranate, and then it has a cedary base. So if you like your fragrances to be very fruity and aromatic, this is one to try. Now I was originally thinking of including Rouge Trafalgar, but that fragrance goes into more of a chypre or a fruity floral category, but here it definitely has lots of aromatic notes. That basil pops here. On me it comes alive. It's very green and aromatic, but the pomegranate and the blackcurrant, really, really wonderful. And again, there's no mint, I believe. I think it's a minty take on basil, because I get like a fusion of mint and basil together in this fragrance. It's wonderful. Anyway, that is Melagrana from the house of Bottega Veneta. And the collection is called Parco Palladiano, and this is Sur le Toit from the house of Hermes. So those are my aromatic fruity fragrances. Now this next category is the aromatic green category, and I love this category. I love green fragrances, and I've got 3 fragrances. I know this video is going to be a long video, but you're going to enjoy these fragrances. So for this one, I'm going to Bottega Veneta again, and this is Lauro, this one right here. So this one, wow, this is so good. This collection seems to surprise me with their quality. They're not intense and long-lasting fragrances, but the actual scents themselves are pretty awesome. They have a fragrance called Olivo, focusing on the olive. Love it. And then the Melagrana is also awesome. And now this Lauro. It's a great, great fragrance. Lauro basically, I think, is laurels in English. And they have a huge bay leaf, bay laurel note in here, along with rosemary, sage, black pepper, mint, labdanum, geranium, vetiver, and tea. I'm going to spray this one because I don't remember it. It's been a while since I wore it. It was last summer when I wore it. Now, laurels and bay leaf kind of has a very slightly medicinal, almost leaning eucalyptus-like smell to me, but not quite. So there's a very, very aromatic and, as I said, almost like eucalyptus, almost like Halls or, you know, those cough drops that you would take, but not quite. So it's almost like if you like the idea of eucalyptus, but you think it might be too, you know, cough droppy, laurel, or actually this particular note, the bay leaf laurel note, is pretty awesome. I love this note. This note is a great, great smell. In fact, I've picked bay leaves off of the trees and taken them to my mom, and she's used them in cooking because that stuff is amazing. I love the way it smells. And this is actually captured here really, really prominently. It's a very, very green take on aromatic notes. If you like that green idea, check out Lauro from Bottega Veneta. Now this next one is from the house of Imaginary Authors, and this is Saffron, the Saffron. So a very, very unique fragrance here. We've got tennis ball, first of all. That's like a really prominent standout note here. There's also lots of linden blossom, along with vetiver, ivy, oak moss, bay leaf, and laurels again. So it's a very, very green, grassy tennis ball and aromatic experience with this fragrance. Lots of bay laurel, but it's really nicely meshed with the linden blossom comes in pretty prominently along with that tennis ball note. It's a bit rubbery, very, very unique note. It's definitely an accord they've created. It's not really a note, but it's really prominent. But the combination of all of them works so well together. I have a friend who's obsessed with this fragrance. He wears it a lot. In fact, he gets so many compliments with it as well. And people say, "What are you wearing?" And he keeps telling me that this is what I'm wearing. And it's a very, very unique fragrance. It's really kind of like, not necessarily like ultra out there, but it's a bit out there. And these kind of fragrances I think are perfect for spring to begin with, the green fragrances, because everything becomes green, and I love wearing green in spring. Anyway, the Saffron from the House of Imaginary Authors is another one. And lastly, Maison Francis Crick Petite Matin here. It's a aromatic green fragrance, and you know this one. I'm sure everybody knows this one, but it's a very citrusy aromatic to me, with lots and lots of lemons. And there's lots of lemons, orange blossom, there's musk, and then of course add in some lavender, ambroxan, some hawthorn. It's I guess I could put this in citrus aromatic and also aromatic green, but it's very, very green and citrusy for me, and I love wearing it. It's just a great fragrance, and that ambroxan in here gives it some energy, not energy, what I'm just saying, gives it some longevity for the fragrance, and it makes it last a little longer. But anyway, I don't want to talk too much about this because you guys know about this one. This is Maison Francis Crick Petite Matin, and then we discussed Bottega Veneta's Lauro, and then the Saffron by the House of Imaginary Authors. So those are some great aromatic green fragrances. And last but not least, we're going to go to aromatic spicy, and here we've got Eau de Menthe from Diptyque, and number 1 from the House of Rosendo Matu. Let's talk about Eau de Menthe from the House of Diptyque. Very, very spicy. And here with this one, lots of mint. It's an aromatic, of course. Lots of geranium, another aromatic. Then you have the kind of a spicy, woody, green patchouli note. And here's where more spices coming: nutmeg, and then some floral touch with rose. Now this one, it's targeted unisex. A lot of women are telling me they don't like the way this smells because it reminds them of their father. It does hint at Dracar Noir, which I love. I love this fragrance. It was one of my favorite fragrances when I was growing up in the 80s. In fact, I wore through 3 or 4 different bottles of it in the 80s towards the early 90s. And it's a very, very kind of nostalgic smell for me, and obsessed with that kind of smell. It's definitely, I would put this under Fougere as well, because Drakkar Noir is a Fougere, an aromatic Fougere, but it's definitely on the spicier side here. The Patchouli is very spicy, the nutmeg is very spicy, and the Geranium also is very, very spicy with the added, you know, mint, which is supposedly coming from Oregon, which is what I've read on their website. You've got one phenomenal release here. Great, great scent. Eau de Menthe from Diptyque. And last but not least, in the aromatic spicy category, and this could actually end up in the aromatic citrus category as well, is Rosendo Matu's #1, which focuses on the bergamot. But here, what's more prominent for me than the bergamot is lots of tea with petitgrain. Petitgrain is the green bitter leaves of the citrus tree. You've got lots of neroli, and lavender comes in as well. Lots of lavender here. Sandalwood, lime, mandarin orange, musk, iris, cardamom, bell pepper, sage, and thyme. It's an aromatic green, citrus aromatic spicy concoction. Lots of spices, lots of citruses, lots of citrus notes such as petitgrain and neroli, and then of course the bergamot, and then the spices like the sage and the thyme and the cardamom and all that good stuff, all mixed together to create a wonderful, wonderful release. As I said, this could end up in the citrus section as well, but I put it in the spicy because it's quite a spicy concoction with all the notes put in there. Anyway, that is #1 from Rosendo Matu, and this is Eau de Menthe from the house of Diptyque. And there you have it. I hope after watching this video and hearing some of the fragrances, you have an idea of what aromatic fragrances are and some of the categories that fall under this category. Now for me, I feel like aromatic spicy fragrances tend to be more stronger and are more for like cooler days. But again, I was giving you guys a variety, and here with #1, I feel like this can totally be worn all throughout the year. I mean, any of these fragrances can be worn all throughout the year, but this particular one is perfect in the summertime when it's really hot outside, but it has a little bit of a heft to it because of the spices. The green fragrances I feel like are perfect for spring. The fruity fragrances, I mean, there's no real rules on when to wear these. You just have to kind of like, when you buy a fragrance, you've tested it out already, right? Like you see how it performs on you, and then you have an idea, okay, this fragrance doesn't last too long, or it's not one of those hefty fragrances that's gonna like kill everybody around you because it's so strong. Then you can kind of like gauge how you're gonna control your sprays. If you want to do some more sprays because it's a weak fragrance, if you want to do less sprays because it's so intense, you have to gauge it. And it's the same thing you would do with when to wear these particular fragrances. Fruity fragrances, green fragrances, citrus fragrances are more summer. Fougeres, I believe, can be worn all year round. Spicier fragrances for the cooler days, and green ones for the spring, I think. But there's really no rules. You just have whatever your mood is, wear it. That's my explanation of aromatic fragrances, covering the different subcategories under aromatic fragrances. We have a lot of different olfactive groups to cover, but we're starting with the aromatics today. Also, if you remember, I mentioned that I am doing one baseball hat giveaway. Just guess which fragrance I'm reviewing tomorrow, and before I launch the video is when the cutoff is, and I'll be launching later in the day tomorrow. Whoever guesses the fragrance I'm reviewing and the first guess out of the ones I discussed today will win a baseball hat. If you have any questions or comments, please do put it down below so that I can find out. Lastly, if you want to send me questions or, you know, a video topic ideas via email, you can do that. You can send that email to lfsgquestions@gmail.com. And again, I don't reply to everybody, but send me the ideas and I will focus on doing videos for you guys. Other than that, thanks so much for watching today. Please like this video, please share it, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.